Hello, everybody. Welcome to ZTV Live. I'm Susan Mulligan Fleischman, and I'm so pleased to have you all here tonight. Today is Thursday, July 30th, and tonight is the Virginia Amos Show, and Virginia's guest is Maura Benner of Four Directions Wellness, and it's sure to be a really interesting conversation. I'm really looking forward to it. But before we bring Virginia and Maura on, I'd like to just go over a few words from our sponsors. This episode of ZTV Live is sponsored by Murphy's Grand Irish Pub on King Street in Old Town Alexandria. Murphy's has outdoor seating, limited indoor seating, curbside pickup and delivery, and they have live music Thursday, Friday, and Saturday evenings. Visit murphyspub.com. And by Riverbend Bistro on Fort Hunt Road in the Holland Hall Shopping Center in Alexandria. They have carry-out as well as indoor and outdoor seating. Be sure to check out their delicious summer menu and refreshing specialty cocktails. Visit riverbendbistro.com. And by the Italian Place on Wythe Street in Old Town. Look for your favorite authentic Italian specialties like pizza and pasta, fresh Italian subs, and Italian wines. Its counter-serve store stocks all sorts of Italian goods and goodies. Visit theitalianplace.com and see their dinner specials, pizza kits, and more, and mention the Zebra for 15% off your order. If you'd like to sponsor or place an ad on ZTV Live, just send us an email at ads@thezebrapress.com. I just have a couple of newsworthy items to share with you today. The City of Alexandria and neighboring counties are taking steps to make sure that the message of maintaining good health during the pandemic reaches all Northern Virginia residents. Almost 60% of cases in Northern Virginia are found in Hispanic or Latino communities, and according to the U.S. Census Bureau, just a year ago, Hispanics accounted for just 9.8% of Virginia's population. The Alexandria Health Department in recent months has held testing events in heavily affected areas, focused on helping those most in need. If you'd like to lend a helping hand to those in need, but don't know where to begin, a great place to start is volunteeralexandria.org. There's lots of information on that site. Gadsby's Tavern Museum, which was declared a National Historic Landmark in 1963, will reopen to the public next Friday, August 7th. It's been shut since March for health concerns. Gadsby's Tavern and all other city museums will allow 25% capacity. Gadsby's will be open Fridays and Saturdays from 11 to 4 and Sundays from 1 to 4. Limited hours are to help ensure the safety of staff, volunteers, and visitors. Tickets for time slots must be purchased, but visitors can tour the museum at their own pace. Alexandria Restaurant Week has some changes this year in light of the pandemic, and customers can look forward to enjoying Alexandria Restaurant Week to go, August 21st through 30th. Visit Alexandria began the restaurant week back in 2009. A little over a decade later, it remains a popular summertime event that supports local restaurant and boosts Alexandria's economy, and help is definitely needed right now. Takeout dinners are 2 for $49 in neighborhoods throughout the city, including Old Town, Carlisle, the West End, Delray, and Eisenhower. All participating restaurants will also offer curbside pickup. Some will offer delivery. More than 60 of Alexandria's best restaurants are participating. There's menu highlights and many more details in our story on thezebra.org. And check back as the dates draw nearer for more updates. In late-breaking news today, there is a Save the Titan Witness Tree event going on in front of the witness tree. Our own Lucella Flaherty is on the scene, as always, and she'll be posting live footage, so keep an eye out for that after our show. Thanks always for the news to Kevin DeRay, the publisher's assistant and wonderful extraordinaire. And we'd like to give a special shout out tonight. All of us at ZTV Live and the Zebra would like to wish a very happy birthday to Bridget Brown, one of our most loyal viewers. We hope you're having a great day today, Bridget. We really appreciate your support and your friendship, so happy birthday. Okay, and then I'm going to bring on Virginia Amos. Hello, Virginia. How are you?
Hey, Susan. I'm great. How are you tonight?
I'm excellent. Glad to see you.
Thank you. I've got earphones in tonight, and so it's a little interesting to hear how I sound.
Yeah, you're getting a little bit. It takes a little while to get used to, for sure.
It does. Yeah. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining in. I'm Virginia Amos, and I am so thrilled tonight to have with us Maura Benner, who is the founder and director of Four Directions Wellness here
Hi,
in
Mara,
Dallas.
you're on the screen.
Oh, good. Hi.
Yeah.
I've always had an interest in the mind-body connection, and never more so than when you add a faith component into it. So I'm really interested in hearing how you got started and what moves you forward.
Well, great. And first of all, I want to say thank you so much to you, Virginia. I'm so excited to be here tonight, and also to Susan. And I have to also say happy birthday to Bridget. It's fantastic that it's her birthday, so we have to do a shout out for her, right?
Oh, good.
Yay!
Yeah.
And I think Bridget really encompasses enthusiasm and passion for life. And that is often what I'm looking for when I'm working with a client, is to make sure that they're tapping in to their life's purpose and what really gets them motivated. And so she's a great example of that. But what really got me started was I was first very involved in the area of gerontology, which is the study of aging, and worked up on the hill doing healthcare policy, did quality metrics. You know, it's fascinating. The whole time I had this concept that we needed to look at healthcare and healing across the spectrum, and to make sure that we had quality metrics. And I even got into thinking that everybody was the same, that every diabetic, everybody with cancer or whatever they might be experiencing had to go through the same type of standard practice.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time that I was doing these healthcare initiatives, I was on my own personal journey and was really interested in ancient healing techniques. And so I went to China and studied Qigong to the extent you can. I studied Reiki, which is Japanese ancient healing approach. I had a chance to do meditation and mindfulness and reflexology, and did a 2-year seminary program in interfaith, interspiritual practices. And then one day when I was at the GW Center for Integrative Medicine, where I'm a practitioner now, it dawned on me that healing and healthcare is very unique. It's very individualized. And so standards don't necessarily work when you're dealing with a person and working with them on healthcare and spiritual aspects of the mind-body-spirit connection. And so it's just interesting to now recognize that it is a unique process, and what might work for one person doesn't necessarily work for another. So that's why I'm so excited that I have the opportunity as a practitioner to work with the doctors at GW Center for Integrative Medicine, and to be engaged with them on helping individuals kind of make that connection, right? It's kind of the other thing that's fascinating is our whole healthcare system separates the mental from the physical, and yet it's all connected, the mind, the body, and the spirit. So it's just interesting. So thank you for asking that.
Well, it is. And it's this, like you said, the medical system is set up to treat certain protocols, and this is the way we do things. Mm-hmm. And yet I think that each of us, if we've paid attention at all, know that there are certain triggers in our own bodies. I mean, I know that when my ears are scratchy and my throat is a little scratchy, I know exactly what will follow. And I don't care what any doctor says, I know what's going to happen. It's that trigger for me. And I don't know that we all pay enough attention to that. You know, it's just easier to pass it off. And I also think that, ironically, this COVID virus has absolutely shown how differently people respond, and that there is not one treatment that's going to fix it all.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. First of all, I think you made an excellent point, which is to recognize that really there is no expert out there that knows your body better than you do. And so trusting, and that's one thing that I'm teaching my clients, is learning how to trust what they're feeling, sensing, noticing within their own body, because that really helps you with your healing process. And then going to COVID, COVID is, from a spiritual perspective, it is the great pause as we start to really look and go deep within ourselves to understand. And, COVID just kind of overnight put us at home. You would never in a million years think that.
Right.
And so here we are, and it's like, this really gets you thinking, well, what is life all about? And so I know that from my clients, they're going through some very, big questions about what is this? And that's a very positive thing for us all to be looking at, that right now, at the same time that we're looking at social injustice issues and starting to recognize that we've got a responsibility to kind of get back to the basics and look at what our values are. And so that's all part of it too. And then COVID is definitely, as a disease, it is morphing all the time and impacting people at in different ways. And so in the healthcare field, I think that's well recognized that it's morphing so much, and we are having a difficult time understanding all of the components to it and the complexities. Yeah.
Just on a practical basis, because I do believe that I feel like when we look back on this year, on 2020, it will have as much of an impact on our society as the Industrial Revolution did. From work to play to whatever it is changing absolutely every single aspect of our lives. And I mean, I'm not Pollyanna, but I am kind of a half glass full kind of person. And so I think I have been able to look at things in a positive manner and kind of look going forward. But how do you help people who aren't half full but are half empty to kind of make that accommodation?
That's a great question. And there's several parts to it, really. The first is from the consideration of people who are really, it's legitimate to feel very anxious about this time. And there's a lot of loss taking place. And so, so there's a lot happening. Obviously, I always encourage people to go and work with a mental therapist, whether it's a psychiatrist, a psychologist, social worker. They're excellent. And so that's certainly a key component. And then it's, for me, what I'm working on is that mind-body-spirit connection. So, I explain it this way. If you remember, which I actually didn't remember, so I had to go back and remember it, that we had biology class and we learned autonomic nervous system. And there's two parts to it, which the Chinese call it the yin and yang. And it's basically the fact that we are either in fight or flight, waiting for that lion to jump out, or we're over at rest and digest. And almost every client I see, whether or not they recognize it, they're stuck in that fight or flight. And they don't even know it.
Yeah.
So it's about helping them recognize that, because your body, that's stress that is just going to cause some sort of chronic illness if we don't help you realize and get over to that rest and digest. And so that's one component. And then the second component, if they're interested, is to explore at a much deeper level the spiritual aspects of what's taking place. And so for me, 2020 is about having clear sight, but it's more internal than it is external. And so there is so much happening in our world right now that is, it's something where we used to put our trust into, and everything seems to be kind of falling apart. So you used to trust, for instance, your healthcare system, or and I'm talking systems, not necessarily specific people,
or
right?
Your food systems.
Your food, so your health, your politicians, your whatever it may be. And again, this isn't against one or the other. It's just systems. It's systems and organizations. And so what 2020 is about is us doing our own work to go in, to explore at a deeper level, and to find out what our own truth is. And that's the part that I love to work with individuals on, and to see how they're able to connect and really work with that.
Well, and I think too that many of us have been pushed into actually developing our own systems.
Yeah.
I mean, as a real estate agent, all of a sudden, you couldn't go and show a house, or you couldn't, it was just a whole different way of working. But you had to kind of figure that out. So you could not rely on the systems you had.
Right.
And you had to find a new way, and find a new way that was really comfortable. As an agent, I think I'm always in that fight and flight category. Yeah. And I had a little episode earlier today, but I also, the other night, I thought to myself, I don't know what it was, but I said, everything always works out.
Yeah, it does.
It may not work out the way you thought it was, but it works out. Mm-hmm. And you just have to breathe. Mm-hmm. And you just live through it. But it's a hard lesson to learn. And for me, at least, it's something that I have to learn almost every day.
Yeah. It's a practice.
Some people I know are like that all the time. I'm not. It's like I have to remind myself, okay, it's going to work out. It's just breathe,
Yeah. It's about living with uncertainty, right? Yeah. And there's no better time than right now to be working on trusting in just living in the uncertainty. And so that is so hard for us to do. But by taking time to practice that and using self-care techniques, it's just amazing how you can begin to get over to that rest and digest state. But it can be very difficult for individuals to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, and our modern medicine doesn't support that very often. So for somebody who's experiencing stress and it's manifesting itself physically, the options aren't always very great.
No, it's such a great point. I used to do, as I mentioned, healthcare policy. And so looking at the data and the statistics that are out there, it was interesting that here in the United States, we spend so much money on healthcare. And so looking at the data that they were looking at, we recognized that compared to even other countries, we were spending so much more money, but our life expectancy wasn't as long as other countries. And then you kind of delve into that even deeper, and we realize that in the United States, there's all these areas where we spend a lot of money, but the actual quality of outcome is not as good. And then they looked up at, it was Portland, Oregon, and they had lower costs, but had good quality outcomes. And so it's like looking at how it's time to kind of look and reimagine how we do healthcare, and we're headed into a time, I think, and I'm really excited about this, that's called what I call holism, or whole person care, where we're beginning to recognize that when you go see a doctor about an issue, it's about that doctor taking time to ask you about the larger pictures taking place within your life. So we've got to understand what stresses you're impacted by at the moment. We need to understand how you're doing your self-care. And that's all things that are done at the GW Center for Integrative Medicine, to then put a bigger picture together of who the different practitioners are that can help and assist that person on their healing journey. And there is another slight paradigm to this, and that is, I know that my generation has often said, I'm going to go to the doctor, and the doctor's going to tell me what to do, right? And it's probably going to be popping one pill or another or whatever, and that, we all need prescription drugs when it's necessary and prescribed by the doctor. But what this paradigm shift is doing is saying that the patient is the one that's responsible. Mm-hmm. And it's their choice to decide, are they going to, put all this together and make sure that they're able to be an active participant in their healthcare. So that's a different mindset, but it's fascinating. I think the time is coming now for that.
It is a different mindset. And I know, oh gosh, this goes a ways back. I was involved in a kind of a mind-body weekend thing, and um, there was a statistic at the time that 2/3 of all healthcare was spent in the last 90 days of life.
Yes.
Well, I'm sorry, how ridiculous is that? I mean, if we take that money and we're spending it on healthcare from the earliest when you're born through your formative years, how much less would we be spending? And if like you say, if we're educating people on how to take responsibility for their own health care, again, how much money could we save?
Right.
And it's so frustrating.
Yeah. Yeah, and you raise an excellent point, because also in the Medicare system, 10% of the Medicare beneficiaries consume 60% of the Medicare spend, and that is the typical chronic illnesses, which is CHF, COPD, and diabetes, of which I would say, we do an excellent job, I think, in healthcare in emergency situations. Mm-hmm. But when we get to the chronic illnesses, I think we have a lot more that we need to think about and work on. And it gets back to that holism approach for healthcare to help those individuals as they're working with those illnesses. So, yeah, it's a fascinating area. But, with everything, we've got so many potential opportunities. And I think the time is here. So that's what's going to be wonderful about this as we go forward.
Good to hear. Now, we talked a little bit before we came on air about your interest in gerontology. And my mother died, it'll be 3 years now. And she was 97, and she lived a really long, wonderful life. And she was at Goodwin House. And, I visited all the time, but I wasn't physically taking care of her. But I found it frustrating in dealing with medical professionals, not necessarily there, but in the hospitals, how hospitals just don't seem tuned in to geriatric patients whatsoever. Mm-hmm. And considering that the population is getting older, it's right. Like somebody better figure this out.
Yeah. And that is it's been a lifelong passion for me with the senior community. I've worked hospitals, home health, nursing homes, hospice. So I've elder protective services. I've done quite a bit. I'm also really excited because right now I'm the chair of the Senior Focused Business Network with the Alexandria Chamber of Commerce. Oh, so we're really looking at some exciting issues. We have a panel coming up in September that is going to be focused on the senior workforce. Mm-hmm. And as I'm getting close to the senior age, I know that it's fun to be reimagining, with all that great expertise that you have as a senior. Yeah. There's so much you can be doing. And so it's just wonderful to recognize that you can reimagine your life right now in using all that expertise that you've gained over the years. And so we'll be talking about that in September. But to your point, it's the healthcare system too, and this is another aspect, is I have to say I work with amazing doctors, nurses, and especially at this time of COVID, right? Wow, it's just have been really doing so much and some just amazing work, and they're so dedicated. They are, though, going 100 miles per hour, trying to keep up with all the regulations, all of the standards that they have to meet. And that's when you have to ask, and I think this is part of the holism aspect too. I think it will be a good time after COVID to sit back for a moment and say, how can we help humanize the healthcare system once again? I remember in one country that I saw, their hospital is all out in the trees. And it's like nature, right? And so it's like a whole new way of us thinking about healthcare. And I think it's time for us to reimagine the way we're doing it, because it has to be that we can't make our doctors and our nurses so stressed out that they're not able to spend quality time with individuals. And so it's a matter of having to rethink the way that we are doing that. But we have so many different pieces to it, whether it's state and federal. And I remember up on the, just working in healthcare policy, that I recognized that there were so many different players. And we have to kind of, at some point, be able to take a time out and learn how to bring back that humanity, because every single person in the hospital needs to be heard. And so I know how that can be concerning for the family members too. And, in COVID, which is just so sad, and I've been hearing so many stories on this as well, the family members aren't even necessarily able to be there. And so it's a difficult time all the way around.
It is. And as horrible as it is to say, I was actually grateful that my mother was not alive right now, because it would be so difficult on her and me. But, oh gosh, what was I going to ask you? It just zipped through one side of my brain and out the, you've also been doing, don't laugh, Susan, it happens all the time.
It happens to me all the time too.
Zip, and I can't touch it. You've also been caretaking, according to your information, and that's a whole nother level of healthcare, the caretaking by family members, that I don't think gets enough attention.
Yeah, so there's a majority of family caregivers are often the daughters. Yes. And if you imagine it, the daughters are raising their kids at the same time that they're trying to care for an ailing parent, and that adds so much stress and complexity to all that's taking place, on top of the fact that they're not getting paid for that at the same time that they're doing that. And especially, again, in COVID, even more difficult. So I will be, very honest on this too. I had studied in gerontology. I had worked in different healthcare facilities and settings. And then my mother got diagnosed with cancer. And I had to see it from the other side.
Yeah.
And that was eye-opening. I had to get her the notebook. I'm very big now on explaining to people and working with people on how to go through the system and be able to understand what comes next. But luckily, I had a sense of the healthcare system to be able to help my mom and to understand that she needed to have it all placed in one comprehensive book and information. But that's a difficult thing. And it really opened my eyes to the fact that that compassion and love that I know all caregivers have has to be brought out fully again. And we've got to, again, that's why I think reimagining it and looking at holism is going to be so important going forward. But it really opened my eyes to that. And it was part of the reason that I really enjoy working with clients now, is I can understand to a large extent the things that they're going through from that perspective. Actually, today I just got a call. My dad's having some problems up in Pittsburgh, so I'm headed up to Pittsburgh later. It starts all over again. But it's definitely interesting to see it from the other side and to be able to recognize how hard it is for family members too.
It is. And, and now that I have, seen my mother through her illness and am getting to a certain age myself, I think about my children all the time and what they have to, what is their responsibility to me? What is my responsibility to them? And as somebody who took care of her mother and now who is thinking about her children, and as a realtor, I always have this issue with, what are you going to leave your children to do when you can't do it? Are they really responsible for cleaning out, decades of stuff in your house? And I'm like, no, I'm going to clean it out, but it's so many levels of how we think about those things and what our responsibilities are, both as caregivers and to one day being cared for.
Yeah. And you're raising excellent points of things that need to be talked about. It's kind of interesting that we don't talk about these things in a high school kind of curriculum, because as you're financially planning, and I'm speaking to 20 and 30-year-olds right now, if they're listening, it's really important for them to be determining will and getting a will in place. It's important to understand who's going to be your power of attorney, who's your executor. You may think that would never happen, but in COVID, I think we're understanding more and more that it could happen very easily. And you want to determine who your healthcare proxy is. And so that's the person who would be making your determinations while you're in the hospital. And you have to do that as soon as you are able to get, when you get your first job, you should be thinking about each one of those key components, because that will help in the process, and then make sure that those individuals know. And the process then of working with folks, we all live often, like I just mentioned, my dad lives in Pittsburgh and I'm here, and I have two sisters, but they live across the country and I'm the closest one. So many families are doing caregiving from across the street, the country or states.
Sure.
Yeah. And so that can be difficult too if, like, I have often said to my father, we have wonderful places down here, Dad, please come down. He does not wish to. Yeah. So I respect his wishes. He gets to live wherever he wishes.
Right.
And then it's a matter of putting the particular services that he needs together. Yeah. And so that, if anyone is looking for that information, that's your area agencies on aging that can help direct you to all of those services. And then I do want to do a big shout out right now, because there's a movement called the Villages. We have Alexandria at Home, who's doing amazing work. Right. Yes. And
yep.
Seal is. And I just want to do a shout out for that, because those individuals get to remain independent and should. But the services, it's a way of kind of keeping social, but it's also a wonderful way of getting whatever services you need into your home to be able to help you out. So, yeah, right. Wonderful points.
Totally looking forward to that. I mean, that's, talking to them. So we're kind of getting towards the end of our time together, but I wanted to give people, let you give people an idea of what would happen, or how you would start working with somebody and what they could expect, because I think that's really important. And, it's not always an easy step to say, I need help, and I don't even know where to begin.
Yeah. So thank you. So mine is mind, body, and spirit. And that seems so kind of out there. I'm sure people are not quite sure what that means or how that's defined. And so I would say that there's two ways that I work with individuals. One is if they have received maybe a chronic illness and they're on this exploration of including alternative medicine, and are interested in hearing it. And I will say your body speaks to you all the time. And so I help individuals to understand and work with their body, make it that team player that it is. And so that's some of the work that I do to pursue for them on their personal journey. And then the second way is this more spiritual aspect of that longing within us, or especially during COVID, that there's something more that you want to experience and you're not quite sure how to put any words to it. And I call that my Finding Your True North, where we do a deep dive. I use ancient healing techniques. It might be meditation, reflexology, or Reiki to help do that. And so I combine all of my tools in my toolkit to make it the best experience, because it is very personalized. And so I need to do that. And if it's all right, I would just like to mention, this is kind of like, what is this? And so as a result, I do two things that are complementary to our community. Every second and fourth Monday, I do a Mindfulness Monday, which is a meditation at noon. And it's online, so you can just visit me by Zoom.
Oh,
and it's a wonderful meditation, I hope. And then the second thing is Reiki is a Japanese ancient healing approach, and I ran the Reiki program at GW Hospital. It helps to reduce pain in the short term, and also minimizes or helps to diminish intense feelings like anxiety, depression, things like that. And it's just a light touch. But I train people on self-care Reiki. This is complementary to our community right now, too, because of COVID. And we have all kinds of dates and times. Catherine Miller is my associate. She is amazing. And so she and I teach that. So if you go to my website at fourdirectionswellness.com, you can sign up for any of those things that are free and complimentary to kind of get you started.
Oh, lovely. That sounds terrific. And maybe, Susan, we can see what we can do about. I love the Monday meditation.
Mm-hmm.
It does sound great, and it's a generous offer to do. I could tell you I have a knot in my left shoulder that will not go away, so I would love to explore maybe different ways of healing it. I just love everything you've been describing.
Thank you.
And your partner hasn't she also been recognized this year as one of the 30 under 30 by the Alexandria Chamber of Commerce?
Can't believe I didn't say this. And she always gets so mad at me because I say it all the time, and she blushes so much, and I love it. So Catherine Miller, who is a yoga instructor, she's a Reiki master, and she's a nutritionist. She just got recognized by the Chamber's 40 under 40 for her leaders. So I'm so excited for her. It's just great news. So
That's
yes.
perfect. And when is that coming up? In the ceremonies in the fall?
Yes, it was in July, and so now the Chamber, I think, is delayed it till October.
Okay, and the Zebra will be covering that, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
You betcha.
Yeah. Well, Mara, thank you so much for being on with us. I can't believe you actually work 2 blocks from my house. So there's no reason why I shouldn't be down there seeing you. And yes, the meditation and the Reiki, I am looking forward to tuning into both of those.
Thank you.
And I think that what you're offering is so invaluable. And did a message just come through
Yes.
that yes, what do you do? It's just such a fresh way of looking, and a way that I think with everything else that is going on now, it's a great opportunity to take that breath, to step back, and to really examine your life. I mean, that's what it is, the examined life. Yeah. So, Susan, we're going to sign off now. Thank you so much for guiding us through once again. And
sure thing.
It's getting dark out. I think another storm is coming.
Yeah, there's a storm outside, but so far we're good on power and electricity, so we're thankful for that. Mara, it was an honest pleasure to meet you, and I just, everything you said just rang so true, and makes so much sense. It's just common sense, a common sense approach to things, and yeah, let's look at different ways to do things, and I just really appreciate your candor, your expertise on the subject. So thank you. It was really great to meet you, Virginia. Always a pleasure.
One more thing.
Sure.
We don't often know what we're doing the next week, but we do know that next Thursday we are going to be talking to Carrie Galloway, who is the director of Friends of the Guest House, and it turns out that Mara works.
I love Carrie.
Yeah. So we're excited about that. And if you don't know Friends of the Guest House, it's a wonderful organization here in Delray that helps women who are coming out of prison to start leading their best life. And they've contributed greatly to the community. So we're really looking forward to talking to Carrie, and who knows, Mara, your name will undoubtedly come up again.
Thank you.
Okay, well, great. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to say goodnight to you ladies now. Take care, and
Thanks.
hope to see you soon.
Bye.
We'll see you next Thursday, Virginia. Okay.
That's right, 7 o'clock.
Okay.
Okay.
Take care. Okay, well, that was just a really a wonderful show. So much information and really a lot to think about. And Virginia, I'm going to work backwards from next week. As she mentioned, her guest on Thursday night is Carrie Galloway, director of the Friends of the Guest House. On Wednesday night, August 5th, Jane Collins, and her asked 10 questions. Her guest will be Yerilyn Molina, a Supreme Teen Volunteer, who's actually highlighted in the August issue of the Zebra. Tuesday night, I'll be hosting the show, and I'm really looking forward to my 3 guests. I'm going to be speaking with Nicole Scott Howe and Sandra Dalal, 2 local entrepreneurs who've combined forces to offer masks with a mission. The proceeds of which support the Black Lives Matter movement. And you can buy these masks at Nicole's shop in Holland Hall, redesigned in a day. And then our second guest that night will be Martha Carucci from, she's the executive director of the National Breast Center Foundation. And she'll be here talking about the upcoming golf and tennis tournament fundraiser that will take place at the end of August. And Martha will also be talking about the foundation's plans for their October Walk to Bust Cancer, which is their primary event every year, and they might be doing things a little bit differently this year due to the pandemic. And then Monday night, Steve Houck is here with Living on Music. His shows are always great. His guest is Jim Ebert from Cancer Can Rock, which is an incredible organization. It enables musicians, professional and otherwise, who are dealing with cancer to record their own music in a world-class studio, capture the experience on video for posterity. And there will be performances from 2 cancer survivors who recorded at his studio, Jerry Dabry and Brennan Loveless. So that's going to be, we have a big week next week, so I hope that you guys can join in. But the biggest news is that our August print issue will be back and out on Monday. It's dropping Monday, so take a look for it by Monday afternoon. It should be in our lovely red boxes all around town, and people who get their mail subscriptions will be getting it right to their mailbox. You can too. Check the zebra.org website for information on how to sign up for a home subscription. I believe there might be a discount going on, a little promotion going on right now. That's it for this week. Many thanks to our executive producer, David McClure, and of course, our amazing publisher, Mary Wadland. So, from everybody here at ZTV and the Zebra, have a wonderful weekend, and remember to be the good news in someone's life.